All right, y'all. So in this video, we are going to finish questions 11 and 12 about wild, the second reading from your test. Okay. And we are going to finish the questions that are about both readings, questions 13 through 16. Okay. So question 11. Paragraph 10 builds upon the theme of. So we need to go back to paragraph 10 in wild. It says, I hadn't expected it to rain in the desert, and I certainly hadn't expected it to snow. As with the mountains, there'd been no deserts where I grew up, and I thought, and though I'd gone on day hikes in a couple of them, I didn't really understand what deserts were. I'd taken them to be dry, hot, and sandy places full of snakes, scorpions, and cactuses. They were not that. They were that, and also a bunch of other things. They were layered and complex and inexplicable and analogous to nothing. My new existence was beyond analogy. I realized on that second day on the trail. A reminder, if there are any words that you don't know in the reading or the questions, please use the Learner's Dictionary to look them up. Okay, so let's go back to question 11. Paragraph 10 builds upon the theme of A. Discovering how close humans are to nature. B. Rejecting modernity for a simpler way of living. C. Finding a sanctuary from society by retreating into nature. Or D. Gaining a new perspective by undergoing a challenging experience. Pause this video, answer question 11 in Illuminate, and come back. Question 12. In paragraph 1, the author details the history of the Pacific Crest Trail 2. Okay, so we need to go back to paragraph 1 and look at the history of the Pacific Crest Trail. I am technically 15 days older than the Pacific Crest Trail. I was born in 1968 on September 17th, and the trail was officially designated by an act of Congress on October 2nd of that same year. The trail existed in various forms long before that, sections of it having been forged and pieced together since the 1930s, when a band of hikers and wilderness enthusiasts first took interest in creating a Mexico to Canada trail. But it wasn't until 1968 that the PCT, Pacific Crest Trail, was designated, and not until 1993 that it was complete. It was officially dedicated almost 2 years before I woke that first morning among the Joshua trees that had stabbed me. The trail didn't feel 2 years old to me. It didn't even feel like it was about my age. It felt ancient, knowing, utterly and profoundly indifferent to me. Okay, so going back to question 12. In paragraph 1, the author details the history of the Pacific Crest Trail 2. F. Show the sacrifices that were necessary to complete the trail. G. Imply that it took an unreasonable amount of time to create the trail. H. Contrast how new the completed trail is with how old it feels to her. Or J. Emphasize that the trail's history is not as interesting to her as the trail itself is. Pause this video, answer question 12 in Illuminate, and come back. All right. So now we are on the questions that compare and contrast the two readings. So make sure you have watched the first and second video so that you are prepared to answer these questions. Use a train trip from the first video and wild from the second video to answer questions 13 through 16. Then fill in the answers on your answer document. Question 13. Read these quotations from the two selections. A train trip. And what will you remember? All the fun we've had. Not just filling the wood box and hauling water? That's not hard. No, he said, that's not hard. Aren't you sorry to go away? Wild. I began to walk, feeling experienced in a way I hadn't the day before, less cautious with each step in spite of the scat, stronger beneath my pack. In both quotations, the narrators display A. Optimism, B. A need for approval, C. A lack of self-worth, or D. Self-doubt, Pause this video, answer the question in Illuminate, and come back. Question 14. What do the narrators of both selections have in common? And if you're thinking to yourself, wait, I don't remember what a narrator is, use the Learner's Dictionary. Type in narrator and search it up. Okay. What do they have in common? F. They both show signs of being physically exhausted. G. They both exhibit some reluctance to proceed on a journey. H. They both experience deep feelings of regret. J. They both test the limits of their endurance. Pause this video, answer question 14 in Illuminate, and come back. Question 15. In both selections, food is described as. Okay, so this is tricky because it doesn't give us a specific paragraph, but we know we have to figure out how food is described in the reading. So let's take a look here. In the first reading from A Train Trip, when they talk about food is paragraph 9. And it says, "Eat that other egg. He lifted the egg that was left in the pan with the pancake turner and put it on my plate. The edges were crisped from the bacon, fat. I ate it and looked around the kitchen." Blah, 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 blah. Tell stories about the kitchen. Okay, right? So that is kind of how they talk about food a little bit here too. It says, he brought the frying pan and the coffee pot from the stove and sat down beside it, and we ate ham and eggs and drank coffee with condensed cream in it, right? So this is kind of the discussion of food in A Train Trip. Now let's look at Wild and find where food is described there. Remember he talked about soy powder. Here we go. Okay. I still wasn't hungry, but I forced myself to eat breakfast, scooping 2 spoonfuls of a powdered soy substance called Better Than Milk into one of my pots and stirring water into it before adding granola. It didn't taste better than milk to me, or worse. It didn't taste like anything. I might as well have been eating grass. My taste buds had seemingly gone numb. I continued to press the spoon into my mouth anyway. I'd need the nutrition for the long day ahead. I drank the last water in my bottles and awkwardly refilled them for my dromedary bag, which flopped heavily in my hands. Okay, so now we've looked at how food is described in both of the readings. So now let's look at the question. In both selections, food is described as something A, the narrators consume out of necessity. B, the narrators find completely unappealing. C, that represents love and caring. D, that is in limited supply. Pause this video, answer question 15, and come back. And last question of your test, question 16. Although the authors of the selections write in different styles, both of them make use of F, short sentences, G, occasional dialogue, H, third-person narration, J, vivid descriptions. I suggest going back to your reading, kind of thinking to yourself, did I see any of those things in both? And then answering that question. And if you're like, wait a minute, I don't know what some of those things are. What is vivid? What is dialogue? Use your dictionary, okay? Pause this video, answer question 16, and come back. All right, so at this point, you have answered all of the multiple choice questions on your test. Yay, congrats. There is a writing portion, but we have done that in class. So please don't worry about the writing portion of your test. That is done in class already. Make sure that you turn your assessment in Illuminate, okay? And message your teacher if you have any questions. Good luck, and thanks for watching.